What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Casual Big Ten Podcast. Today is Wednesday, August 16th, 2023, and on today's show, we're going to be discussing conference realignment. We'll get really excited about football. It's almost here. The countdown is on. I have a little bit of Jim Harbaugh news. We'll talk some preseason hoops. Just a loaded episode of Big Ten action on today's show. So let's jump right into it. I said that I was going to talk about conference realignment. It's something that I probably should have done right when the news was announced. Oregon and Washington are joining the Big Ten. I'm going to keep it very casual. Hey, I'm excited that they're joining. I'm excited for West Coast football. I'm excited for late night West Coast basketball. That's going to be really exciting. I'm one of the few people I think that actually likes Oregon's court. Have you guys ever seen Oregon's basketball court? Most people hate it. I love it. I can't wait to stay up until midnight watching basketball. Rutgers, Oregon on a Thursday night, late, way up, 1 a.m. watching that game as Oregon wins by 2. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be really exciting. I'm actually this is probably the only time anyone's ever said this so far. I am more excited about the basketball aspect of this than I am football. Obviously, Oregon, Washington lately have been pretty good when it comes to football, so I'm excited about that. But like I said, going to keep it casual. That's pretty much all I've done as far as research on this new alignment, these two teams that we're adding. The only other thing I did was I looked up, because I didn't know who it was. I knew who Oregon's coach was, and his name is escaping me now, but I didn't know who Washington's head basketball coach is, and I fancy myself as a college basketball connoisseur. I had no idea what his name was, didn't know what he looked like, Googled him, and I've never seen this man in my life. I don't think that Washington had a basketball team before this year, because I don't even remember seeing them play. I don't remember seeing him. I think they just invented their basketball team. I've never watched them play before, but nonetheless, his name is Mike Hopkins. It says right here on his bio that he's been coaching for a long time, but I don't believe it. It says his record's 101 and 91. I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this. I think this is a deep fake right here. I think that Washington never really... Have you guys ever seen Washington play basketball? Because I haven't. I sure haven't. Actually, who was that guard? They had that really little guard. I'm going to look it up. Washington... former players. What was his name? You guys. Oh, wasn't it? Before I even hit enter, it was Isaiah Thomas, wasn't it? It was Isaiah Thomas. It was Isaiah Thomas, wasn't it? Not Washington Wizards. I don't care about them. Washington University. It's not okay. Markelle Fultz. I remember him. Wasn't it Isaiah Thomas? I'm not even gonna Google it because it's gonna bring up the other Isaiah Thomas. So I don't even care. I know I joke a little bit, but I have seen Washington play basketball before, but I didn't know that Mike Hopkins was their coach. I don't recognize him whatsoever. And like I said, I'm more excited about the basketball stuff. The late night West Coast basketball is going to be really fun to watch. Obviously, football. Nothing's going to start until next year. And really, when you're thinking about the football stuff, it's not going to be anything what we've seen before. Or however you want to say that sentence. It's not going to be like anything we've ever seen before. The divisions are going to be gone, of course. But it's almost to the point now where we're adding so many teams that I'm thinking maybe we should bring back some divisions. Almost make it like 2 different conferences into one. I don't know. Is that a bad idea? I've been seeing a lot of different ideas on Twitter about what should happen with the Big Ten, how the teams should be divided up. But for me, I think more is better. I've always said it. So I think there should be more teams added. I didn't get as excited as I did last year when USC and UCLA joined the Big Ten. That was exciting to me. When I heard about Oregon and Washington, it came with a lot of other news. It was like Oregon's joining, Washington's joining, and probably Florida State, and probably Clemson, and maybe Notre Dame's going to be joining. So it just didn't have that cachet that the first 2 teams that were added last year had. So I just didn't get as excited about it, and that's why I haven't talked about it up until this point. And that's all I'm going to talk about it today, because football is right around the corner. And speaking of realignment, too, I did want to mention this real quick, too. Front Office Sports, they were the people that put out the story about PJ Fleck that ended up being completely horseshit. They actually put out a tweet yesterday that said that this is kind of talking about football and kind of talking about realignment, but they said that there are talks that the Big Ten championship game is going to be moved to Las Vegas. And it's not going to be in Indianapolis where it's been since 2011. When I saw that tweet, I was like, okay, these guys fooled me once. Shame on me. I will not be fooled again, though. But it turns out that actually Sports Illustrated put that story out as well, so I guess it's real. Here's my thoughts on that. I'm excited. I don't care where the conference championship is. I've never been to the one in Indy. I heard that it's a lot of fun. But living down in Nashville, I'd like it to stay in Indy because there's a better chance that I could go to it. But I also like Las Vegas a lot better. So if it goes to Vegas, I actually say there's a better chance of me going personally, just to be selfish, if it's out in Las Vegas. I would have way more fun out there than Indianapolis. But that's just me personally. Traditionally wise, I'd like to see it stay in the Midwest, but we're adding all the teams from the West Coast, all these other teams from around the country. More than likely, if you're following what all these conferences are doing, you need to follow the money. And where's most of the money at? It's out in Las Vegas. So I could see this definitely happening, and I'm not opposed to it. All right, the countdown, though. It's on. We're 15 days away from Big Ten football. The first kickoff, of course, Minnesota and Nebraska. It's all I'm thinking about right now. That Thursday night game that's going to start everything off. We got Michigan State on Friday that week, and then the rest of the teams on Saturday. I'm super excited. I cannot wait for football to start. I feel like this has been, and this is partially my fault, I feel like this has been the longest offseason of all time. The reason I say it's partially my fault is because I did the preview episodes, the preseason preview episodes, maybe a little bit too early. Something I need to consider for next year, getting it a little bit closer to August probably before I start releasing those. But I've already talked to all these guys back in June. I've already been thinking about all these games back in July. I've already done everything in my head that I could possibly do for preseason. I'm just ready to get started. And it's almost here. We're about 2 weeks away. As far as the podcast goes, I have goals. And I had goals last year. I don't think I reached any of them. But here's how I see it adding up for me exactly, for the Casual Big Ten podcast at least. I'd like to get an episode out on either Sunday night or Monday that recaps what just happened during the season. I did that last year. I would like to get my look ahead to the rest of the season on Wednesday, or I'm sorry, the rest of the week on Wednesday. Just kind of a preview of who's playing, the matchups, kind of what the standings look like and all that good stuff. And then on Friday, been previewing this for about 2 weeks now, Bet Big episode. All the gambling lines should be set by Thursday, definitely by Friday. And then Friday, that Bet Big episode with Big Bet Brad. He did change his Twitter name, by the way. We'll have those episodes coming out on Friday. So I'm expecting to do 3 episodes a week, every single week during football season. We'll see how that shakes out. We'll see how my mental fortitude does throughout the season and if I'm actually able to do that. But like I said, countdown is here, 15 days. Tomorrow will be 14, and then 13, and then, of course, 12. And then sooner or later, you're going to wake up one day, and on your phone, it's going to say, hey, Minnesota, Nebraska, tonight. Don't miss it. And I can't wait for that day to get here. Also in the football world, Jim Harbaugh cannot stay off this podcast for some reason. And it's because he cannot stay out of trouble, basically. He's not in trouble right now, per se. What happened since the last time I talked about Jim Harbaugh? Well, if you remember, him and the NCAA had an agreement. He was going to sit out the first 4 games, suspended for those first 4 really easy games that Michigan has this year. The deal needed to be approved by the NCAA. It was not approved. And then this is according to, I want to make sure I give everyone credit, Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports. He wrote an article about everything, and it said the case will move further through the NCAA disciplinary system, and that's going to go into next offseason. Not this offseason, next offseason. Okay? Apparently, there are more severe infractions than what happened with everyone was just talking about the cheeseburger. I guess the NCAA has more on Jim than we know about. And I'm going to just go ahead and call it out. No, they don't. I don't think that they do, because if they did, they would not be waiting until next year to figure this out. All right. I feel like the NCAA hates Jim Harbaugh. And if they really wanted to stick it to him, they would stick it to him right now. They would stick it to him this year, get him suspended for this year, which, by the way, is a way more promising year for Michigan than next year is. They would try to get him suspended for as long as possible this year. But they don't have anything, is what I'm taking from this. Now, if they do, let's say that they do have some information on Jim that we're not aware of at the moment. They wait until next year and they pursue this investigation on Jim. And Jim's not there anymore. He's not going to be there. He's not going to be there anymore. If he really has something that he's going to get suspended for that's going to damage his career, that's going to get him suspended for long term at Michigan, deuces, baby. He's out. He's not going. I don't think he's going to be there anyways next year, regardless of what the NCAA does. So the fact that they're talking about waiting until next offseason to do this is just an absolute joke to me, because they might be able to, pull some scholarships from Michigan, or I don't know. Maybe they want them to do really well this year just so that they could take away the wins from Michigan. I don't know what they're trying to do. But I think the whole thing is a joke. I think the NCAA is a joke. I think they have nothing on Jim. And I honestly think nothing will come to this. And I also believe that it's completely malarkey, is the word I will use, that the NCAA, I talked about this before, but they have this gag order on everyone from Michigan. They're not allowed to talk about it. Why? I don't get that. But then the NCAA is allowed to come out and say, we have these infractions during the COVID-19 dead period. And that's all from Derek Crawford, the NCAA vice president. He's allowed to come out and talk about it. But, oh, no, Michigan, you do not talk about this. So I just don't like the whole process. I think it's a Bush League decision by the NCAA. They should have just axed this right here. Let Jim sit out his 4 games, finished it up, and no one's ever going to have to talk about this. Instead, they want to drag it out like they do everything else in the NCAA. They want to drag out this decision for years, or this investigation for more years, for no reason. And like I said, I don't think they have anything, so I think it's completely pointless. And that's everything that I have on Jim Harbaugh. Let's switch gears a little bit. Basketball. Listen, I just talked about how excited I am about football starting, but we are technically in the preseason for football still, right? I mean, I'm not wrong about that. Football has not started yet. So for me to get excited about preseason basketball is just something that I can't do. Again, I've talked about this many times. I think that I'm a bigger basketball fan than I am football fan. I love them both, but I've been following basketball for longer. I feel like I know a little bit more about basketball than I do football, and I just can't get excited about it yet. The games don't start until November. We're still in the middle of August. Football hasn't even started yet. I can't wrap my mind around who is the guy on Twitter? It's not Jeff. It's John Rothstein, posting pictures of watching the Purdue game over in Europe on his dirty ass computer, by the way, which was really weird. And I can't do that. I can't watch a preseason basketball game and get excited about it. Now, all that being said, I love to listen to other people get excited about it, though. I've been listening to the Sleepers podcast, which is also on YouTube. Great show. They talk about basketball every single day. I love listening to these guys talk about it. It's making me feel like I'm more knowledgeable just by listening to them. I used to listen to Titus and Tate. Now it's just Titus. I don't love that show as much anymore. But I like hearing other people get as excited about basketball as I would be if it were, let's say, 2 weeks out or even a month out. But for me to sit down and watch a preseason, does anybody, I don't know. Let me know if I'm wrong about this. Are you getting excited about your team right now for basketball, or is it just a little bit too early? I like watching the clips. I like seeing Cohen Carr jump out of the gym, like over the backboard for Michigan State. I like looking at potential lineups and rankings of backcourts and front courts. I love all that stuff. I just can't get excited about the season quite yet as far as like talking about what I think is going to happen. So basketball is coming. I'm very excited about basketball, but I'm not ready to talk about it quite yet. I'm just not. Kind of like how I did with the realignment. You'll notice a theme on this show. Pretty lazy when it comes to researching stuff. Pretty casual, you would say. Most would say, actually, that is pretty casual. That's the show, though. I didn't have a ton this week. I will be back next week. One more episode before our first debut of Bet Big, which is going to come out, I believe, next Thursday. Maybe the following week. I'm not even positive yet. We do have some more episodes coming out soon, though. Thank everybody. It's like I'm reading something. I'm not, by the way. Thank you to everybody that's been watching. Please subscribe to the podcast if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, drive safely. I'm assuming that you're driving somewhere, maybe walking, cutting the grass. Enjoy those grass cuttings while you can, because winter is coming, baby. Isn't it? I know fall is, at least. Got some more episodes coming next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will talk to you in the...
She knew me. She knows the future. She knows what comes and goes. She knows the future. She knows everything.